I hired a clown to scare my niece and nephew off my porch. Before you decide I'm a monster, let me tell you what a 7-year-old can do to a fish tank in one night. I throw a Halloween party. Same one, every year, 6 years running. It's the thing I'm known for. I spend 2 months on it. The fog machine, the playlist timed to the minute, the punch I mix in an actual cauldron. My friends plan their October around it. Last year, my cousin Ellen called me sobbing. Sitter bailed. She hadn't been out in months. The twins would be angels. So I caved. How much damage could 2 kids do? 20 minutes in, they'd flipped my grandmother's coffee table playing Hot Lava. 200 years old. Gone. Ellen sipped her drink and said kids will be kids. Then they got into the trick-or-treat candy. Ate most of it, fed the rest to my dog. My dog. I spent the back half of my own party in an emergency vet waiting room while a stranger explained why chocolate does that to a beagle. $600. I came home at 3 in the morning, and I want you to remember this part. One of the twins had thrown up in my fish tank. My beta fish, I'd raised him from nothing, this stupid little blue thing, was floating at the top by sunrise. Ellen's take? I shouldn't own breakable things if I invite kids. I didn't invite kids. So this year the invitation said, adults only, in big Gothic letters. I called Ellen personally, made her say it back to me. She said fine, no problem, got it. Then the night before the party, 11 p.m., my phone buzzes. The twins are so excited to be vampires at your party tomorrow. I read it 4 times. I text back, gently, sorry, no kids, remember last year, my apartment still hasn't recovered. She fires back instantly. They're just children. I already bought the costumes and told them they're going to Aunt Katie's spooky party. You wouldn't disappoint kids on Halloween. That's cruel. And there it is. The trap. Say no, and I'm the villain who made babies cry. Say yes, and I'm cleaning vomit out of another tank. I said nothing, because I'd already thought of something better. See, my neighbor Mike does kids' birthday parties. Professional clown. Balloon animals, the whole kit. Sweetest guy you'll ever meet. Problem is, Mike is 6'4", covered head to toe in tattoos, and has a resting face that makes grown men cross the street. Kids see him and evaporate. He's spent years trying to fix it. Can't be done. I called Mike, told him everything. He laughed for a full minute, then said he'd do it for $200 and open access to my punch. Party night. Guests trickling in. And Mike takes his post on my front porch, right by the door. Full clown costume, but he'd added dark red splatter across the white face paint. Propped a little sign against the railing. Adults only. Children will be entertained by me. Then he just sat on my porch swing, perfectly still, twisting one balloon. Slow. 7:30 sharp. Ellen's minivan swings into my driveway. I'm watching from the window. She parks, pops her door, goes around to unbuckle 2 little vampires. Then she sees him. Mike doesn't move, doesn't wave, just turns his head, real slow, and stares dead at the windshield while he keeps twisting that balloon. I have never seen a woman lock car doors that fast. Both hands, slap, slap. The twins had their faces mashed against the glass, mascara tears running down their little vampire cheeks. Ellen threw it in reverse so hard she took out my mailbox and was gone, but before Mike finished the balloon, my phone lit up. What kind of sick joke is this? The party was flawless. Nothing broke. Nobody went to the vet. I finally exhaled around midnight, thinking I'd won. Then someone knocked on my door. 3 slow knocks. My guests were all inside. Nobody knocks at their own party. Mike had left an hour ago. I opened it. It wasn't Ellen. It was a police officer. And behind him, in the driveway, Ellen's minivan. Back again. Both car seats in the back. Empty. He looked at me and said, "Ma'am, when did you last see the twins?" The music was still going behind me. Somebody laughed in the kitchen, and I just stood there in the doorway with my hand on the frame, feeling the whole night tip sideways. 7:30, I said. They never got out of the car. Ellen drove off. She didn't even park all the way. He wrote something down, asked if I was sure. I said I watched it happen through that window. Right there, they were in the back seat pressed against the glass, and then they were gone. He asked if I'd had any contact with Ellen since. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and showed him the text. What kind of sick joke is this? Timestamp 7:34. He read it twice. Then he asked the question that dropped my stomach through the floor. When did she report them missing? I don't know. I didn't know they were missing. I thought they were home. He keyed something into his radio and stepped off the porch to talk low into it. And I stood there doing the math no one wants to do. It was almost 1 in the morning. 7:30 to 1. 5.5 hours. Where do you go for 5.5 hours with 2 crying kids and then come back to the one house you fled from? My guests were starting to notice. Mel came up behind me with her drink and went, "Katie, what's..." "Oh, And then she saw the cruiser lights washing red and blue across my dead lawn, and the empty car seats, and her drink just kind of lowered. The officer came back up the steps. His name tag said Reyes. He said Ellen was at the station. She'd walked in about 40 minutes ago, hysterical, saying the twins were gone. And here's the part that made my skin go cold. She told them the last place she'd been was my house, that she'd dropped the kids off at a Halloween party at my address, gone to run an errand, and come back to an empty driveway. That's a lie, I said. She never dropped them off. She never even got out of the car. I have people inside who watched her drive away with those kids in the back. Reyes nodded slowly, like he'd already half figured that. He asked if anyone at the party could confirm it. I said all of them. He asked about the clown. The clown, Mike. And that's when I really understood the shape of what she'd done. Because think about it from a cop's chair. A woman walks in crying that her kids vanished from a party, and the party host hired a 6'4" tattooed man in bloody clown makeup to sit on the porch and terrorize children away from the house. She hadn't come back for the twins. She'd come back to build a story, and I'd handed her the villain. I called Mike right there on the porch, on speaker, so Reyes could hear. Mike picked up on the second ring, chewing something, TV on in the background. He confirmed all of it. The minivan pulling in at 7:30, the doors locking, the woman reversing over the mailbox with the kids screaming in the back, gone by 7:33. He even said the little vampires were bawling. Man, I felt kinda bad. Reyes asked if he'd seen the kids after that. Mike said no. He'd sat out there till 9, then came in for punch, so now we had it locked. 2 independent witnesses, a doorbell camera, and a text time-stamped 7:34. The twins left with Ellen, alive, crying, buckled in the back seat, at 7:33 p.m. Whatever happened to them after that happened somewhere else. With her, Reyes's whole posture changed. He stopped looking at me like a suspect and started looking at me like a witness. He asked if he could take a statement from Mike in person, and could I get my doorbell footage pulled. I said yes to both. My hands were still shaking, but now it was a different kind of shaking, because the fear had turned into something meaner. She'd tried to pin her missing kids on me, on my party, on a bit I'd done to keep them out of a fish tank, but under all of it, there was still the real question, and it was the only one that mattered. If the twins left with Ellen at 7:33, and she showed up at the station alone at 12:20, where were they? I pulled the doorbell footage on my laptop right there on the kitchen counter, with Reyes leaning over my shoulder and half my party pretending not to watch. There it was, the minivan, the lock, the reverse, the mailbox going down, and in the top corner of the frame, for half a second before she peeled out, you could see through the back window, 2 little heads, 2 vampire capes, real. There. Reyes asked me to send it to him. I did. Then he asked something that hadn't occurred to me. Does Ellen have anyone she'd leave the kids with? A boyfriend? An ex? A friend she trusts? And I stopped. Because yeah, she did. Her ex, Danny, the twins' father, the one she'd spent 2 years in a custody fight with. The one who, according to every family group chat I'd muted, had been unfit and dangerous and not allowed near them without supervision. The one Ellen swore up and down she'd never let take the kids again. I told Reyes. His pen stopped moving. He asked when the last custody hearing was. I didn't know exactly, but I knew there'd been one recently because Ellen had been posting about it. Long, weepy paragraphs about how the system was failing mothers, how Danny didn't deserve them, how she'd do anything to keep her babies. Anything. And that's when a very ugly picture started to develop in my head, and I could see Reyes seeing it too. He made a call, stepped outside, came back 10 minutes later, and he had a look on his face I didn't like. Not scared, but careful. He said they'd sent a car to Danny's address. And he asked me, gently, if Ellen was the kind of person who might, quote, create a situation to strengthen a custody position. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because he clearly didn't know Ellen. This is a woman who let her kids feed my dog chocolate and told me I owned too many breakable things. A woman who forgot adults only on purpose so she could make me the bad guy for enforcing it. A woman who, 30 seconds after her own children were screaming and terrified in the back of her car, had the presence of mind to text me, "What kind of sick joke is this?" instead of, comforting them. She's exactly that kind of person, I said. The party had mostly cleared out by then. People murmuring goodbyes, hugging me, telling me to call if I needed anything. Mike had driven over to give his statement in person, still in half his makeup, and honestly the sight of a bloody clown solemnly telling a police officer, "Yes, sir, the minivan reversed over the mailbox at approximately 7:33 is something I'll be seeing for the rest of my life." Around 2 in the morning, Reyes got another call. He listened. He said copy 3 times. Then he hung up and turned to me, and I braced for the worst thing a person can hear. But it wasn't the worst thing. They'd found the twins, at Danny's, asleep on his couch, in their vampire costumes, full of candy, completely fine. Danny had no idea anything was wrong. His story was simple. Ellen had called him at 8 p.m. crying that she had a family emergency, that she needed him to take the kids for the night, that she'd sort out the paperwork later. He'd said, of course. He'd been begging to see them for months. She dropped them off at 8:15 and drove away, 15 minutes from my house to his. She left my driveway at 7:33 with 2 crying kids, drove straight to the ex she supposedly feared, dumped them, and then spent the next 4 hours building the version of the night where she was the frantic mother and I was the woman who scared her babies into thin air. Except she'd made one mistake. She thought there'd be no witnesses to the drop-off at my house. She thought it'd be her word, sobbing, devastated, against mine. She forgot 2 things. She forgot the doorbell camera. And she forgot the 6'4" clown she was so busy running from that she never once considered he was watching her the entire time. Reyes stayed another 20 minutes filling out the last of it. Before he left, he stopped in the doorway, looked back at the cauldron of punch and the fog still hanging low over my floor, and at Mike sitting on my couch eating leftover candy corn in his bloody face paint, and he just shook his head. "You threw one hell of a party," he said. Here's the part that still gets me. 2 days later, the family group chat exploded. Ellen had gotten ahead of it, of course, posted a novel about being questioned by police and traumatized, and how the real tragedy was that certain family members had created a hostile, dangerous environment that put the children at risk. No mention of Danny, no mention of the drop-off, no mention that she'd invented a kidnapping, and for about 6 hours, some of them believed her. My aunt sent me a message asking how I could hire a scary man to frighten little kids. My own mother called to ask if I'd maybe gone too far this year. So I sent one thing to the group chat. Just one. The doorbell footage. Ellen's minivan, the locked doors, the reverse, the mailbox, and 2 little vampire heads in the back window at 7:33 p.m., with the police report timestamp laid right over it. The chat went dead silent for a full day. Then, one by one, the messages started coming. Privately, always privately, never in the group. My aunt. I had no idea. My cousin Rachel. She told us something completely different. My mother. Finally, "I'm so sorry I doubted you." Ellen lost the custody case, by the way. Turns out inventing a kidnapping and framing a family member is not the flex she thought it was, especially when there's a judge and a police report involved. Danny has the twins most weekends now. He sent me a card, an actual card, in the mail. It said thank you, and inside was a photo of the twins, out of the vampire costumes, grinning, holding a little fish, a balloon fish. Mike had made it for them the day he went over to give his statement. Said he felt bad about the whole crying in the car thing, said kids shouldn't be scared of clowns. I've got that photo on my fridge now, right where the invitation used to hang. And this year's invitations? They still say adults only in big Gothic letters. But down at the bottom, in small print, I added one line, "Balloon Animals by Mike. Ask him about the minivan."